one nation, okay. First up, under public participation, we have Mr. Chuck Duncan with Advanced Disposal on the phone. Mr. Duncan, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, I'm Chuck Duncan. I'm with Advanced Disposal, now a waste management company, and I just wanted to make myself present and get some more information, potentially answer any questions that you may have. And the trash RFP should be coming out pretty soon, and just wanted to get a firm timeline on that, and that there are any changes being made, and just really be present for the discussion.
Do you have any questions for the council specifically?
Specifically, for starters, are there intentions on making any changes? And if so, when will the bid package be out?
So,
Because we're tight on the timeline.
yeah, and perhaps I can answer several questions at once. I spoke
Okay.
with Mr. Bateman about this one last week, and the council will be having a discussion tonight. It's the last item on the agenda. And during that time, the council will be having a conversation as to whether we accept a 1 or 2 year extension of the existing contract, because that is written into the contract that we have with the current provider. And if the council chooses not to do that, then we will have a discussion about the details of the RFP and any timeline-specific details. Does that
Okay.
help?
So tonight you'll make tonight the council will potentially be making a decision if they're just going to extend the current agreement for a year or two.
Yes, we are gonna have a discussion about it.
Okay. Okay, great. And I'll be listening. So if there's any questions for me, feel free.
Yeah, and Mr. Duncan, to be clear, because this was on the agenda as a discussion item, it is possible that we
Okay.
will not take a vote tonight, so I just want to make sure that you are aware of that.
Yep, great. And this is all unusual formatting with the call-in. So
Yeah, we appreciate you bearing with us. Okay,
hey, not a problem. So that's all I have. So thank you.
okay, great, thank you. Okay, moving down to the next item. This evening, we have Miss Patty Becker with the United Way. She would like to present some information to the council and the public about two programs. The first one is called United Way 211, and the second one is called the Equity Challenge Program. So, Patty, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody, and thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time tonight. We wanted to share some information on a new program that we have for Logan County, the 211 program. If you're not familiar with 211, it's much like 911, but it's for social services. So 211 has been in existence for over 20 years in the United States. There are 211 systems all across the country. They're run by different agencies. In the state of Illinois, about 80% of the state has 211. Most of it sponsored by United Ways that exist in every county or region. And we are partnered with Path 211, which is a provider that is in Bloomington, Illinois. And so they have, I don't know exactly how many counties they have, but they have a pretty big region in Illinois that they cover. And then there are other providers that cover, like in Southern Illinois, some of them are in St. Louis. In Northern Illinois, they have some different providers, but Path is a large provider in the state of Illinois. So this is something we've actually been working on for a long time, and it just became within our reach from a financial point of view. So it was very affordable. They wanted Logan County in the system, so we do have to pay for this service. It's only like $150 a month, $1,800 a year right now. It's based on our size. our United Way size and our county size. So the way this works, and we also have the switch, we had to get Frontier to make sure the phone system worked okay, but we got that done, and that was very reasonable as well. So it is currently in place. Anyone in Logan County that is looking for help with rental assistance, health, any kind of social service that they may need, they can just dial 211, and they are 24/7. They have volunteers at the phones. Those volunteers are trained to look on the database, what's available for our county, what's available for your zip code, and give reference for people that are looking for help, if they're looking for some type of assistance. They're also trained in helping someone if they call and they're suicidal or they're having a mental health issue. And their database is very complete, and they keep it current. And they know what agencies are out there that provide services for Logan County. We also help them build that database around what we knew. So wanted to make you aware that we have this service available now. If you have constituents or people that you're working with that need help, it is up and running. The other really good thing about 211 PATH, we have a real-time, I can go on to the system real time and see how many calls are coming in. We can see what the greatest percentage of those calls are about. So far, we've been active about a month, I think, been pushing this on social media, and we had a press release that went out. As of yesterday, we had 105 calls, and they were 85 of them were from Lincoln, and the others were from other parts of Logan County. The largest number of calls were about housing and shelter, which actually reflects the rest of the state. That's a large concern that they get a lot of calls about. But then there were all kinds of numbers about what people had called about too. So it goes anywhere from food, help with utilities, trying to get a hold of government representatives or just agencies. So we can see what people are calling about. I looked right before the meeting, and we had another 4 calls, so there are about 109 calls so far. We can see when they can't help someone. They keep track of if they can't fulfill a request or whatever. So we've been getting this out in the media. Like I said, we've been pushing it with social media. I do have, the only thing we've really printed so far are some little cards that we can put out in, if you have an office, that these would be good to have in, or if the police or anyone would like to have these somewhere where they're available. It just basically talks about 211 that you can call, kind of some examples of services on the back that you could get help with. You can also go online, there 211 PATH Crisis, you can search the database. But I think the beauty of 211 is the call. It's the person to person. You get in touch with a trained person 24/7. They know what to look for. They're familiar with, what's out there to help people. And they also can help people that may not, like elderly people that may not be able to connect, know how to maneuver a website or how to call another agency. They can connect them directly to that agency so that they don't have to bother with, trying to figure all that out if it's someone that's having trouble doing that. So we're really excited about this for Logan County, and we think it'll be a great service. So we're just trying to get the word out about it. There is actually, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, and I don't know what'll happen with it, but there's been a bill introduced. It's called the HELP Act. It's been introduced in Congress, and it's to try to create the system where within a 911 system, any call that's not medical emergency or, police emergency would be automatically routed through the 211 system. And it's also asking, I think, for some funding for local 211 systems so that they can do this and maintain that program. So I don't know what will happen with that. It's just been introduced in the last month or so we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, we have it here. So just wanted to make you guys aware of that. And does anyone have any questions or anything I didn't cover that you're concerned about?
No, Patty, this is Tracy. So thank you for sharing this information with us. I got information about this program a while back, and at the time that I first opened it up and was able to look at the information, I was confident that this is something that we would want on our city website as a resource to help people.
Okay.
The cards in particular that you shared, unless the city clerk has an objection, I think we can put some of those downstairs at the clerk's window for when the city reopens. I think that's a good place for traffic to see those.
Okay. Whenever you want me to drop them by, just let me know. And if you need any, if you want to put it on the website and you need any, assets, pictures or whatever that would help with that, I can provide those for you as well.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, Alderman Keller.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Hi, Patty. Ron Keller here. So thank you for this information. I wasn't immediately familiar with 211 either, and I actually called. I was a little worried about calling the number because I'm thinking emergency. 211, what's your emergency? I was thinking, well, but anyway, so I talked to a gal named Cecilia in Bloomington, and she's very helpful and was very familiar with because I understand, as you said, that they handle several counties, and she was quite familiar with Logan County, which I was impressed with because I think whoever answers needs to be familiar with their communities. I'm also very impressed with your website. Who manages the actual website to make sure that the services that are provided are current and up to date?
Well, I am working with PATH to make sure that they have the resources in their database. And what we did to start out with was we used an older resource guide. The ALMH community organization and has worked on trying to have a resource guide along with the public health department for a long time. It's just so hard to keep a paper resource current. So anyway, we sent them that last one. They work with agencies in our area, and they update that at least every year by personally calling each agency and making sure their services haven't changed or anything like that. If there are any agencies that are missing, they can contact me or 211 directly, and we can get that in the database. So we've been building that based on the information we had, what we were aware of, and then what they already had in their database too. So that's, I went to the ALMH Community Health, I'm a part of that organization, and we've been talking about it for the last several meetings, and some people have contacted me about services, and all I have to do is let the 211 contact I have know that needs to be added to our database, and then they will do that. They'll contact them, and then they will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Patty regarding 211? Okay, now you want to talk about the equity challenge?
Yeah, just real quick. We have been fortunate to be the recipient of some of the money that's been made available through the Healing Illinois grant through the state of Illinois. And that is all about racial and other equity within the state based on, some of the things that have happened over the last year and a lot of concerns about our, our equities in our justice system and that kind of thing. So we have one of the projects that we worked on from a statewide perspective with United Way is what's called the Equity Challenge. And we have had press releases about that. We received a $2,500 grant just to advertise that, get the word out. So we have used money to put ads in the media papers, the Lincoln Courier. We're on the radio at Lincoln College. We're on WLCN, trying to get the word out about this racial equity challenge, which is a 21-week challenge that launched yesterday. If you haven't heard about it, but you can get involved with it anytime through the 21 weeks. If you go onto the website and you sign up, which we've been encouraging people to do, then every week you get an email that has within it articles about the topic of the week, videos about the topic of the week, and it's a learning experience to help us all think a little bit differently about our relationship with people that are different than ourselves in order for our community to be better, have more equity within our community and people treated more equally. So if you haven't seen that, you can go to our website. There's a link. It's uwlogancountyillinois.org, which you can find information on all of this that we're talking about. And sign up, and then every week you will get this email to help, educate all of us about different things. I got my first one yesterday. I don't know. Did anyone else, were you aware of it? Did anyone else sign up and get that or have a chance to look at it? There were some really good videos about talking to your kids about race and racism. There were some other videos that were on there. This was all of the curriculum, or whatever you would call it, was created by the United Way in Champaign. So there's a lot of U of I influence. There are some great little short videos from that look like they were developed by the New York Times, just about different ways people look at things from where they are coming from, race-wise. Those of us that are Caucasian, those of us that come from other types of backgrounds. So just really interesting, thought-provoking, that you can take your own time all week to look at and just kind of think. There's also a discussion guide. So if there are groups of people at either colleges or workplaces or that just want to talk about this a little more, there are discussion guides just to try to get people thinking. So I don't have any numbers yet about how many in Logan County have signed up. I will get that at some point. They are keeping track of that. This is all across the state, and it was developed in conjunction with United Way of Chicago, and then across the state, the United Way of Illinois. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that and you're interested, I hope that you will. Also, I've been in contact with Ron Keller. The other 70, we have received $10,000 total as part of this Healing Illinois, just for Logan County activities. So $2,500 of that is for the promotion of the Equity Challenge. And the other $7,500 is for other activities that we want to use that money to help within our community to drive the types of activities we want to help locally. So I've been in touch with Ron, and of course he has his commission, and they are meeting next week. So I'm going to meet with them so we can talk a little bit more about maybe how we can use this money, if there are other people we need to get involved. So if any of you have ideas or thoughts that you have about this, you can talk to Ron, contact me, or a member of the commission. There is a website, a Healing Illinois website, that is capturing all of the other activities that are going on throughout the state using this money. I don't remember how much the total grant was, but there's grant money all over the state that's being used. And in larger communities, of course, they had a lot more money that was given to them. So some communities turned it down, though. They didn't feel like they had the need. So we got a little more money than we thought we would. I don't turn money down. I think we can find a way to use this. We will. And it's something that obviously is important to you guys. You've created this commission. So I'm excited to work with Ron and the commission to do some things that will help people thinking a little bit differently, and hopefully help help bring our community together. So Ron, I don't know if you have any more to say about that, or you want to comment?
You said it very well. And like I said, we are going to be meeting, and I appreciate the United Way and you providing us this opportunity to help our community. It's going to be great. So thank you very much for all you're doing.
Great. I'm excited to see what we come up with. So that's good. So that was all I had. Does anybody have any questions about the grant money or the Equity Challenge or any of that?
No questions? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you,
Great. Well,
Patty.
thank you so much. Thank you for letting me talk to you guys, and nice to see everybody that I can see.
Thank you for dialing in. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks for all you do, guys.
Okay. Moving on, next item up is the consent agenda, which consists of payment of bills. Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Alderman Downs made the motion, Alderman Parrott second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Fleshman,
Yes.
Mr. Welch.
Yes. Okay, next item up is the city treasurer's report for December 2020. Mr. Conzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have all received copies of this report, and I want to call your attention to a couple of things here. I'm not going to go through every section of it, but if you look at that general fund balance that you see in the or near the upper right-hand corner of the report, and $2,093,614, it's not low. I mean, we've been a lot lower than that. There's still some reserve there, but I want you to look at that trend and look at where we were a year ago in December, at the end of December of the previous year, 2019, and 2018, and for that matter, 2017. We were much higher. That balance was much higher. I'll get into some of these revenue streams in a minute and where we stand with those, but. And then even looking at the previous 2 months, you see where we were at the end of October and November, and then December. Now, during the month of November, we made some substantial bond payments, because our bond payments, I think I pointed this out last month, and some of the loan payments are due December 1st, so those were paid during November. We always kind of take a hit to that balance during that period. You saw the same thing in previous years, but it's a little different this year because we're still trending downward, and we're down lower than I would like us to be. It's not that there's any need to panic yet, but I think what I hope you'll take away from this or remember from this is that it shows a decrease in the fund balances, and that's something that we want to be cognizant of as we look ahead through the rest of this year, and what we spend money on, and also what we do with regard to next year's budget, because that is a lot of this, I know, is a result of the pandemic, which is, offshoots of that, various things that have been offshoots of that, but that isn't going to be over as soon as we'd like. I think we're going to see it turn around here soon, but we still have a long way to go. And the effect that it has on the economy isn't going to go away overnight. So it's certainly something to be very cognizant of. You'll see the breakdown by funds. I would briefly point to the investments. The stock market's been, or at least through the month of December, and so far in January, we've seen increases in the value of the stock market, and that's reflected in both the police and fire pension funds. And certainly hope that trend continues. The thing to be aware of with these funds is now we're to the point where we have used the money that we received from the tax levies, and we're not going to start seeing any of that money again until July. So from now through June, the money and the transfers have been done, budget transfers have been done, where we transferred money from the general fund to the pension fund. So the money that you're going to see transferred to the police pension checking account and the fire pension checking account, which is used to pay the annuitants and the survivors. That money is going to come out of these investments, and so it diminishes those, and it also reduces the capabilities of the people who manage these funds to have enough money to make more money and to grow the balances in these funds. Would also point out in the attachments, and I don't go through each one of these accounts in the beginning and ending balances, but I'd encourage you to look at those from time to time. And if you look at the attachments that show some of the revenue streams, you see the first one there, the municipal sales tax and the state use tax. We're actually up a little bit over where we were last year, and last year at this point we were at $2,462,281. So we've got a nice increase there of about $64,000. That's the good news, but some of the other things, the other funds that I'm going to talk about there, we've seen a decrease in those, and this doesn't by any means offset those, but I'll go into some of those. I won't list all of them, but if you look at the non-home rule sales tax, for example, we're at $559,000 for the year to date, and that's what we use for our capital projects fund. A year ago, we're at $587,000, so there we're down. We're down $27,000 from where we were a year ago. And that we were up a little bit for September, which is encouraging. But overall, that's been trending downward for the year. And you can see the previous years, several years back to 2006. Personal property replacement tax, and I think I explained this to you before. Illinois doesn't, unlike Missouri and some other states, have a personal property tax. Illinois did away with that in the Constitution of 1970, and when they did that, they replaced it with the personal property replacement tax. It's largely paid by corporations and utilities. It's a considerable source of revenue. It's not as big as it once was, but you see where we are for the year 2020, calendar year 2020, versus the previous year. 2019 we had 370,000. Now we're down to 331,000 for the year. 2018 was low too. That was a little different. The state rated that fund that year and used it for other expenditures. So the municipalities were kind of cut out of a lot of what they would have received. But you see, going back to 2017, we were at 352,000. So this is, this represents a loss there too of about $36,000 for the year. And then I did not include the income tax this time. There we're just about even with that. I didn't attach the table this time, but we'll talk about that more in the months ahead. Video gaming tax. Now we're through the year with that, and the video gaming system was suppressed during much of the year. You see there the 18,000 in November. I think it was mid-November, sometime around there, when the governor gave the order to suppress the video gaming terminals. And they were remained suppressed throughout December and January to date, although I understand, someone told me just before the meeting, that they're going to be unsuppressed here within a couple of days. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's
The video gaming.
video gaming terminals.
There were already some establishments open today that I saw.
Okay. Well, that's going to bring back that revenue, but it's not going to replace, what you see there, and the loss of about $105,000, just under $105,000 in revenue that you see year to date. And keep in mind that $18,000 for November we don't have yet. And I hesitate to even list anything on here until we actually have the check, but we have received all the rest of that up through the $32,978 for October. I did add that $18,000 because that's going to finish out the year, and we know even if we get that, we're going to finish with a loss of about $105,000 there. Also, in the utility tax, I did not include the table for that, but we were down about $12,000 over last year. And keep in mind, last year we were down over the previous year after the closing of the bottle factory and the Kroger stores I mentioned a number of times. Those were major detriments to that fund. Overall, we're down about $276,400 in these revenue streams, which would explain the position that we're in with the general fund. We'll see what happens going forward. Hope that some of this, we turn a corner here with this COVID epidemic, and that we're able to also see an economic rebound from that. But there are a lot of uncertainties to it, so I wanted you to be aware that fund balance has been declining over the past few months, and we need, we don't need to be alarmed yet, but we need to be aware of it, and we need to be cautious with how we spend money. That's all I have.
Any questions for the treasurer? Okay, thank you, Mr. Conzo. Next up is the city clerk's report for December 2020. Ms. Bateman.
For the month of December, we received $386,230.30 in sewer receipts. We did receive money from both prisons in the amount of $108,706.63. I do want to bring the attention to everyone that, you as the council voted not to increase, not to go to the tier 3 on the sewer rates. So when the bills leave City Hall at the last day of the month, it will have the new a person, even though we didn't go the next tier, you still have the level might have changed. We still did the water reads, the October, November, December. There was 1,700 changes that was made, so 1,700 addresses it affected. Sewer girls putting them in, they felt like there was a lot going back to the level one, which is a good thing for them. It seems like people are maybe realizing they have control of their bill now, but not until they actually do the billing next at the end of the week, they'll be able to tell exactly how many changed by the numbers. But with that being said, anybody out there that has bill pay, open up your bill when you get it, because if you changed and your bill pays us, it may not pay the correct amount. And so you're the only one out there with does bill pay that can change it at the bank. We can't not do that for you. So open up your bill, look at it, and verify that your bank is going to be sending the correct amount. They may be sending too much, and they may not be sending enough, depending on where you fall.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Parrott.
Peggy, has there been any other individuals or businesses that have come in to help make their update their payments, delinquent payments, or anything like that?
When we sent those bills out with the notice that they could, sign a contract agreement type thing, that we had a lot. That at first it was slow going, but there was a lot that came through. So far, everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. We'll see, but it was a positive thing, I think, to do it that way.
I know you probably don't have the number, but what would be a rough estimate that still have yet to make a contract or to make payment in full?
Well, there were some people that just made the payment in full. They said I'll just pay, and they just paid. I don't think, off the top, I don't think there was maybe a couple. It wasn't very much that didn't follow through or didn't come forward. So, like I said, I think it was a positive thing to do it the way we did it.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Fleshman.
The sewer late fees, they will go back into effect April 1st, is that correct?
Ms. Bateman?
Are you talking about the people that signed a contract? Or we haven't been,
No,
So I think he's asking, did we suspend any of the late fees for individuals? And if so, when is that lifted?
well, at first, when COVID hit, we did for like 4 months without late fees, and then we started back up. But then when the people that signed the agreements, that had such a big balances, though, as long as they fulfill their contract, we're not giving them any late fees. As long as they fulfill their contract, which they have to be paid off by March 31st.
correct, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Bateman. Next item up is department head reports for December 2020. All other departments, the reports are on file or will be shortly. Moving down to new business, the first item we got up is 10A, and that is the approval of pay application number 5 for Plocker Construction Company Incorporated for the Lincoln CSO improvement in the amount not to exceed $829,990.14.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Bateman made the motion. Mr. Fleshman second. Discussion? Alderman Bateman.
As you all saw in your packet, that's some of the construction work that's going on. Again, as Christy has said when she's called in, if you try to realize the size of this and scope of this project, they always try to get a picture of a human standing next to some of this stuff. that is a 6-foot pipe that gentleman is by, so, they're moving right along. Mr. Fleshman and I have made a trip out there and looked at it, and I like the progress they're making. Obviously winter hit, but, they're still moving forward even with the weather, so, hats off to them for keeping moving forward on a project that size.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Fleshman.
Just to piggyback on what Alderman Bateman said, currently they're in the process of driving pilings for the new bridge, and lab construction will begin shortly.
Thank you, Alderman Fleshman. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Fleshman,
Yes.
Mr. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Okay, next item up is 10B, the approval of the City of Lincoln, Illinois' Economic Support Business Sustainability Grant in the amount of $2,500 to each of the following applicants, pending approval of the Cures Grant applications by the State of Illinois. Athletic Position and El Mazatlan.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderman Keller made the motion and Alderwoman Horn second. Discussion? So as a reminder, these are the two remaining of the 10 business grants that we received for the $2,500 grant program. We have reviewed their paperwork, and the committee has approved these to move forward for approval by the council. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Fleshman,
Yes.
Mr. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke.
Yes.
Okay, item 10C, approval to hire 2 replacement police officers. Chief Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we have, last November, we have the resignation of Aaron Pickett. And we have not filled that position yet because we're waiting for somebody to become eligible on the lateral list. He becomes eligible February 1st, so we'd like to hire Christopher Phillips for that position, pending his background investigation. We're currently doing that now. And then we just got the resignation from Officer Chase Fox, who's going to be moving to Missouri. So we'll need to replace that position immediately too, once we get a new list put together.
So for this item, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderwoman Horn made the motion. Alderman Hoynaki second. Discussion or questions for the chief? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Fleshman,
Yes.
Mr. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item up is 10D, approval of Illinois Route 66 Scenic Byway membership.
Move to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion. Alderman Parrott second. For those who were either not on the council at the time or do not remember, the city of Lincoln became a member of the Route 66 Scenic Byway when we created the Centennial Commission. The membership benefits are listed in your packet for us. When you read down through these, what these really equate to is that being a membership affords us the opportunity for the byway to promote and encourage those who are traveling Route 66 or considering that to see what attractions that we have, and they will actively work with us to help promote Lincoln. The signs, the byway signs are an example of that. If you've drove through town and you've seen the markers along Route 66 that tell you which direction they go. That was something that we worked with as part of our membership and no cost to the city to get that signage up. So the packet, if anybody is curious, the packet includes many of those other benefits. The annual dues for the city of Lincoln, the communities would be a population up to 30,000 would be $250. So that is what the ask is for. Any comments or questions? Alderman Keller.
Thank you, Mayor. And this comes out of our hotel motel tax.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor. It could. I mean, very well could do that. In the past, we've taken it out of the public relations line in the mayor and council budget, but there's no reason it couldn't come out of the hotel motel tax, since we have a balance there that would more than accommodate it, if that's the pleasure of the council.
It seems reasonable. I think
agree.
it should come out of that.
I think that would be appropriate.
We can do it. So,
Any other comments or questions on this topic? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Fleshman,
Yes.
Mr. Welch.
Yes. Next item up is 10E, approval of quote from Bodine Electric not to exceed $5,982.94 to repair motor control center air conditioning unit number 2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion. Alderman Downs second. Chief Danofsky, is this your item? No. Andrews?
Andrew and Bounds.
Yes, this is mine.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it today.
So what we have here is, we've got 4 air conditioning units on this particular motor control center, all of which have failed in varying degrees. We have one completely repaired. This is the second unit that we've sent in to have diagnostics run on. And this is the quote that we've received back for the repair price. This one exceeds my limit by a little bit, so we needed to bring it in front of the council to get your guys' approval to move forward with it. The blower assembly on this particular unit has completely failed, and that is the cost difference between unit number 1 and unit number 2's repair price. If any of you have any questions on this, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Alderman Parrott.
Yes, just a couple quick questions. Do you know how old this unit is, and then what the cost would be for a new unit?
The cost for a new unit would be extraordinary, as these are custom-built units, as that particular cabinet was not designed to have air conditioning units installed on it, but it is required for the operation of them due to the thermal output of the pump drives that are located within it.
So I guess, how old is the unit and how much is a new unit?
There is no such thing as a new unit, Alderman Parrott. These are custom units, and the unit itself is estimated at 20 years old.
So if it wasn't the blower, here's, I guess my question is, if it wasn't the blower, let's say the whole thing went out, what happens?
That's basically what is happening with this repair. They are replacing nearly everything in it except for the housing of the air conditioner unit itself.
Thank you.
So if, Andrew, if you had to estimate what the cost of a new one would be to replace this, and we're not going to hold you to this, but what would that estimated cost be?
I would estimate north of $20,000 just because there's going to be engineering required by whatever firm that we would move forward with for a new unit. And that's why I believe that repairing the units that were custom fabricated for this panel is the best way to move forward.
And what do you think the estimated timeline would be if we said we wanted a custom one to be built? Are you talking 6 months, 9 months? What are you looking at?
I think 6 months would be on the short end and probably a year and a half on the long end.
Okay. Alderman Bateman, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna explain that this cabinet that these are in, as Andrew's saying, these are custom-made air conditioning units to fit an antiquated building. So that's part of the cost there. I mean, we might be better off looking at replacing the building and putting the. You see what I'm getting at? They're
I guess
custom-made
my point
because-
is, if it's a 20-year-old, piece of equipment and, we're putting. Almost $6,000, and kind of a rough estimate is, what do you say, 20,000?
Upwards of 20.
Upper mid-20s, I mean, it's 20 years old. But if you're saying the $6,000 is going to basically rebuild the whole thing, I guess I'm okay with that. It's
basically the $6,000 is the price of a new unit because they're rebuilding everything that's inside the custom built cabinet. So the only thing you're missing here is the custom built cabinet. If you try to do it with today's technology, as Andrew said, you'd have to re-engineer everything. That's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, I was just thinking it was for like the blower portion of it or whatever, and thank you.
Andrew, I have a question. What is the expected lifetime of this unit once it's repaired?
Total rebuild, we'll be getting a 2-year warranty with this, and I would estimate that we would get roughly another 20 years out of it.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Fleshman.
This item comes out of Andrew's maintenance and repair budget. Is that correct?
Yes, it is spelled out on the memo that it would be coming from the M&R fund, but what will happen is we will issue a PO to Bodine, and it will be covered through the M&R portion of our contract.
And we're approaching the last quarter of the fiscal year here. Are we going to have a report on that M&R project coming up soon?
That is now in the monthly report every month going forward, as was previously discussed on the council meeting. It has been added as the final item on the very end, so it's easy to locate every single time. We're in the month of December, to give you an idea, we were just shy of 80% spend at the start of December, but due to some repair projects throughout December, we hit right at 97%.
So needless to say, we're probably going to go over on that this year.
And that is expected due to the way that the contract was absorbed the first time, not knowing where M&R costs would land. And that's why we also had that makeup payment for the first 2 years of M&R that Veolia has operated the contract. This seems to be right where we're going to land. It will be similar to the previous 2 years.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Andrew on this? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Fleshman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Okay, next item up is 10F, approval of request for special use permit at 3103 Woodlawn Road. Mr. Woodhull. This is your, yes, we can, go ahead.
January 7th of this year, we had a request from a local developer for a new project on the west side of Ball Drive. It'll be a standalone quick service restaurant, 2,100 square foot. Part of that project would be to have a drive-through service. So with that in mind, I had to go through the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission unanimously approved it. with no objections, and we're asking for the same from the council.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Alderman Downs made the motion, Alderman Keller second. Questions, comments?
Quick question. Do we know what the
Sure.
business will be, or can we say?
Wes, are we at liberty to say what the business is at this time?
Yes, I believe we are. It's going to be a new Starbucks restaurant. Obviously, everyone knows, excuse me, Starbucks, international coffee chain. So I think it's a good location for the project. A lot of times I try to hold off from saying exactly what it may or may not be, only because, you know, especially nowadays, if we don't see a shovel in the ground, things can change and then people are disappointed. But as of right now, I feel really confident this project's going to go through. We're looking at a mid-March start. All the contracts, leases, all that stuff through the developers have been taken care of. So it looks like it's a go, knock on wood. But it is a new Starbucks out by the highway there. So I think it'll be a good project and a good asset to the community.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Fleshman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Okay, next item up is 10G. Approval of quote from Anderson Electric not to exceed $1,985 to terminate and test fiber optic cabling. Chief Adams.
Thank
This
you.
is yours.
So as your IT guy, we've had dark fiber connected to the courthouse for years now. I'm not sure exactly when it was put in, 2006 timeframe, probably. But it's been sitting there, not being used. We have the termination done on this side, which means they have all the ends on it ready to be connected. There will be some equipment that needs to be bought inside the city hall to make the connection to our servers, but that's a wire and a transceiver. So, and then we have to pay for the transceiver on the other side to connect it on that end, but they have to essentially terminate the fiber on that side. So they have to put all the ends on, make all the connections on that side, and then make sure they test it and everything tests fine before we do anything with the connection. So Anderson Electric has provided us a quote for $1,985 to do that termination and testing. They're going to go ahead. There's several fibers there. It's just not one fiber. It's there's like 6 different fibers inside there that need to be terminated, so they have to do all those. They're going to do that and test the fiber and make sure it works correctly, and then we can proceed with doing the connection on this side. Now, the big reason we're doing it now is because we're making the transition to consolidate our records management system, CAD system, with Sangamon County. When we do that, we're going to be able to bring Lincoln Fire on to our system so they can help share records. They'll get CAD information, et cetera, from dispatch and make that all one cohesive unit instead of them typing in stuff and essentially retyping in stuff that's already been typed in by a dispatcher. So it'll make them more efficient here. And then I'll make that connection all the way to Sangamon County over that fiber optic line. So
Alderman Parrott.
2 quick questions. You said dark. You just mean it's because it's not connected.
correct, it's not been lit up, yep.
And then the second question is so no connection to the police department needed?
No, we are connected to the safety complex through a wireless network. And then, so the sheriff's department is connected to the courthouse also through that fiber optic network. So they're already connected. And then that makes a connection through the Illinois Sentry network at the safety complex down to Springfield. So
Thank you.
if you can visualize it.
Okay. Do you have a motion to approve?
The only problem we have is what line it was going to come out of, but I think we'll work with Chuck on that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Alderman Downs made the motion, Alderman Parrott second. Any other discussion or questions for Chief Adams? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Fleshman,
Yes.
Mr. Welch.
Yes. Okay, next item up is the approval of reduction in liquor license renewal for fiscal year 2021 through 2022. Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion, Alderman Fleshman second. Alderman Bateman, would you like to share this with the council? So this was brought forward a couple weeks ago, and on a suggestion, it went through the Liquor Commission and made the proposal to them. There was no official vote out of the Liquor Commission, just a blessing, I guess, or yes, it was a good idea. So there's a memorandum in your packet, and it reads, due to COVID restrictions and shutdowns for local businesses of the past year, I propose that the council vote to reduce certain liquor licenses packages. So if you read it, it's package A, packaged liquor, there'll be no reduction. B, restaurant and tavern, that fee would be reduced 50%. So from $1,200 to $625 per business. And then there's B, restaurant and tavern with gaming. That reduction goes from $22.50 down to $125. Wine cellar reduction from $700 to $350. Microbrewery and catering, that would remain the same. Club license with gaming would be reduced from $350 to $175. And club license with gaming would be reduced from $13.50 to $675. This is only for the fiscal year 21-22. It would not include any new businesses that would apply. One of the things that was discussed at the Liquor Commission is this would keep the process in place for each and every restaurant and tavern. So as you can see, their application fees would still be due on April 9th of 2021. And this allows the Liquor Commission to process those licenses and the clerk to get the paperwork ready on the same timeline that each one of those businesses are used to. I did reach out to a couple taverns. They like the idea of keeping the process the same. So in the long run, this would reduce the budget for 21-22 by $38,250. This is for a one year only.
Alderman Parrott.
Yes. Peggy, do you know how many of these entities may have been prorated a license this past year? And if we have any, and if we do have any, what does that process look like?
Well, the ones that's on the list, the past this fiscal year we are on right now.
So, yes, those that may have been affected, let's say, for example, if it's a March date, that we go from March to March.
Go May 1. They go fiscal year.
Okay, so fiscal year to fiscal year. So May to the end of June, or the end of April. Thank you. So let's say somebody got a license in October. Well, they're not paying the 20. Let's say if it's a Class B, they didn't pay the $2,250. They were prorated a certain amount.
Right.
So are we saying it's going to be half of what they paid basically?
No.
In that year?
No, this coming year, it'll be what they're going to pay. This is what they're going to pay this coming year.
Yes,
so
but the whole reason that
anybody new.
The whole reason that they were having it halved is because, let's say they got it in May, they paid the $22.50. If they got it in October, they paid a lesser amount.
Right.
right? And so they didn't have a full effect of the business, and so they'll be getting kind of a deal in this next fiscal year. They'd only be paying half where they didn't.
I mean, essentially what you're saying is if a new business came in and they didn't start up on May 1, they came in October, we prorate those because they won't have the license for the full year.
Correct.
Yes, those businesses, it is possible that that same business could fall under one of these classes that gets a reduction in fee for their renewal. Yes, that is possible.
But that wasn't the intent, though, was it?
Well, the only one that I would know of after studying that list would be Annie's on Woodlawn Road. I don't know when they actually got their liquor license. They would have been the newest. Annie's and Dottie's were the only two
Not
that actually.
Dottie's.
No,
Dottie's has been there,
Not Dottie's.
Maybe
Elsa.
that's like,
They, it looks like they paid in July, those two. So she prorated them. Let's say, I don't
So
know.
only two businesses are getting what you're calling a deal, that
But-
they missed out on 2 months worth of liquor license.
But being prorating, we're not sticking it to them and they're not sticking it to us. I mean, they were only in business that amount of time. So why should we charge them a full year of liquor license?
I think what Steve is getting at is they didn't pay a full year, so why should we give them 50% of a full year?
well, but
They're paying for next year. They're
Yeah,
not-
they're paying for
also-
next year just like everybody else is.
yeah, you have to keep in mind that the COVID window, I guess if you call it, is from roughly around March until current date, right? So if they started up in October, it is likely that they suffered a loss that entire time or there in the beginning. And that's what this is intended to do, is help those businesses that incurred a loss or were impacted during COVID.
Steve, I just found it simpler to just go down the list as asked and not, for lack of a better term, nitpick and pick and choose, which was brought up, a couple weeks ago, say, picking and choosing. I just chose the liquor licenses that I know were absolutely shuttered during that time.
I guess this is my point. So if somebody opens up a bar in April, we're going to prorate them for a month. They're only going to pay a month.
Yep.
But then when May gets here, they're going to only pay the $1,125. How does that make any sense?
If you're talking about this fiscal year, if they're a new business this year, they got to pay it all. These are businesses
No.
that had current licenses.
No, I'm saying they get a current license. They get it in April of this fiscal year. We're saying anybody that has a license in this fiscal year is paying half the amount for next fiscal year.
I think what Alderman Parrott's asking is for possibly a modification here to only include those businesses who held a license for the entire 12 months for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
That and or kind of that would be the easiest, or you could do like a percentage. If they had the license for 75% of the year instead of it gets kind of messy. But to my point, I think is I don't know if we have any businesses wanting to open up in April, but it's a possibility.
So
Well,
you
wouldn't
can
that-
you can modify this to where it says they had to have a license. They had to fill out a liquor license on May 1 of 2020. If they didn't have a liquor license in May 1 of 2020, they owe the full amount.
I'm fine with that. I just didn't know what this council would prefer, if they would like to do something like that, or if they would like to kind of, again, prorate it as well.
I think
You
the
know.
percentage it creates a lot of extra work for the clerk.
Wouldn't it fall under where it says this proposed reduction excludes any new liquor license applicants from this vote? I mean, from this day. So
No,
if somebody comes in April and wants 1 month license and then turn around and want a new fiscal year, they shouldn't be included in that.
My intention has always been people that were actually open for business the entire fiscal year, the entire year of 2020. No new businesses.
Hence the
But I
last
think
sentence.
go ahead.
Hence the last sentence, yes.
So then that would exclude any of those businesses that opened their establishments after May 1 of 2019
Well,
or 2020. I'm sorry.
but would it? Because it says it excludes any new liquor license applications. So that would, to me, when I read that, that means new for this coming year. You're talking about people that operated last year on a prorated license.
Yeah, because that's the reason we're given this discount for this coming year, is because these businesses were impacted in
Incurred a loss.
in fiscal year 20.
Correct.
But are we going to go through the list and decide which ones of those businesses lost? Because somebody opened their business in July. Okay, how many days were they out not having business compared to, let's say, somebody that's been in business for years? I mean, who are we to choose? I mean,
Quite honestly, Steve, there's a business on there that hasn't closed one day. They haven't shuttered their door one single day. I wasn't picking and choosing. I was trying to be fair to everybody that owned a liquor license in 2021. If they chose to be open, they chose to be open at their own risk. They could have lost their license and never been granted that license back ever again. That was the risk they took. If they were willing to take that risk. I'm trying to help all the small businesses that suffered, in my opinion, a tremendous loss in revenue. You're talking the entire summer months.
Well,
I mean, some of them, some of the most busy months.
I'm not trying to exclude anyone. I'm just saying, if we wanted to be fair, some businesses did not pay the full amount of for Class B, let's just say, of $2,250.
but I think that's why they did a prorated amount, is because that gets them to the end of the year when everybody then is on the same playing field. If you held a license, this is my opinion, if you held a license in that fiscal year, you more than likely suffered a loss of some kind. I think that goes without saying, especially in this last order that was put out by the governor that just got lifted. I have no doubt that those businesses, even the one that Mr. Bateman referenced, they did shut down the first time. It's just the second time around they decided to take their chances. But I still have no doubt that they took a loss of some kind. I just don't know that it was as much as the other
Steve,
ones.
you're also talking them new ones. They're out all their construction costs to get to the point where they needed a liquor license.
I guess my point, and I'm not going to belabor it any longer. I guess my point is, again, and I'll use the example, if they open up in April, they're paying a prorated amount, say $200, all right? But for the next year, they're paying $1,125.
Mr. Treasurer.
They would pay the new liquor license fee though when they first apply. So that would more than.
I think what you're trying to do, Steve, is quantify the loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do.
If we start quantifying a loss, then the next step down the rabbit hole is, at what level is an acceptable loss? Is it anybody that had it for at least 6 months? Or you had to have it more than 6 months? And regardless of how you feel about this topic, it really makes a lot of work for Julie and Peggy in the clerk's office.
but he's saying this April, right, Steve? Yes. This coming April, if somebody comes in.
Yes.
But once again, if reading how that's worded, that excludes any new applicants. So it would be any new applicants from your date of voting on this. It would exclude anybody at that point.
If they
would have to pay the full amount.
If we vote tonight and they come in next week and apply for a liquor license, they're paying the full amount.
Come the new fiscal year, they'll pay the.
These are just licenses that were held in 2021. So any new applicant has to pay the full fee.
And I really do think you're talking, we can look it up, but I think you're talking very few, like
That was my
single
original
digits
question. I was
on
just
this.
asking if there were, how many there were. And
I mean, you would have to ask yourself, who took the chance to open up a brand new business during a pandemic? That's what it amounts to. And I don't, maybe Annie's, when they were getting prepared, and the one that's, the name, I'm at a loss for the name, but the one that's right behind Anytime Fitness, that one by the railroad tracks. Yeah. So they did a remodel in preparation for being open. Those are the only ones I can think of.
Well, I think the old Comcast building, old Comcast
Yeah.
building, I think, they started demolition there and they've got the stuff, but, they just kind of stopped. So I don't know, maybe they're just waiting for things to go further or move on.
So, yep, the motion's already been made. Alderman Fleshman?
No, I say we have had a motion and a second already.
Okay. Any other discussion on this matter? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Fleshman,
Yes.
Mr. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
yes.
Mr. Downs,
Abstain.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Abstain.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask, can the, would it be too much or someone else could type up a letter and mail it out to these businesses before their liquor license go out? Or when do you start mailing out the paperwork for the liquor license so that they know?
Beginning of March, she'll get all the stuff together
Yeah.
to go out.
I just think it would be nice to put a letter in there that, that the council
Yeah.
voted to.
I can actually put this letter here showing approved by council such and such a date. I mean, or we can do a different letter.
They'll just be
That's-
asking for the appropriate amount based on this approval we just made in their application
Yeah,
process.
she'll bill them for exactly what you voted on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next item up is item for discussion, and so it does not require a motion, is the mandated trash agreement. Alderman Bateman, would you like to talk about this?
So, as most of you know, Mr. Welch and I have been the liaisons with area on this, popular or unpopular. I can sit here and tell you that I have answered numerous phone calls I know Mr. Keller in Ward 3. We've had several conversations about trash in Ward 3 and others. Personally, I wasn't on the council when it was voted, but I took this topic on immediately getting on the council. We've had several sit-down meetings with area disposal trying to work through this. We were new to the game of mandated trash. They were not. We handling ours differently than the municipalities they have. And I can honestly say that we have made leaps and bounds in progress, in getting things to run a little bit smoother. We're still working on a couple issues, but have been assured that those issues are being ironed out. Quite honestly, a lot of the problem with mandated trash in the city of Lincoln falls on the city of Lincoln. In my opinion, we did not think of or come up with a plan to enforce this trash mandate. For one instance, Mr. Keller and I have a residence in our district that every time someone called and complained about trash piling up, it was, this person just moved out, the new person didn't have trash. And then this person didn't move out, and the new person had trash. to the point where we graciously asked the landlord to please put the trash in their name, not transfer it to the landlord. Haven't had a call since. So I am still in favor of mandated trash. I can give you my reasons why I would like to extend a extension to area disposal to try to work out a couple issues that we still have going, but I can say that the complaints and the issues are getting further and further apart and easier to fix, usually by a simple phone call. I think what we really need to do, if this council wants to stay with mandated trash, which again I would vote in favor of, is we need to really look at our code enforcement in this city. And, you know, in my opinion, we need to really consider that if we're going to stay with mandated trash, that we change the code so that the trash cannot be transferred to the resident of the house. I did not realize, and Mr. Welch didn't realize, how many rental properties we have in this city. It's hundreds. And I can tell you, 90% of the trash problem is always the finger pointing. And if we make it to where the owner of the property must maintain trash service, that would probably eliminate 95% of the problems in this town. I know a gentleman that still owns a business in downtown, and he still can't even throw his own business trash away because his trash is always filled with fly dumping. Just constant filled. I used to own rental property. I've gotten rid of all of it. And I think if we pass something like that and give it a timeline to work its way through the system, I don't see any reason why property owners can't surcharge their tenants the price of weekly trash pickup. That's just my thoughts on it. I think a lot of the problem falls on the city, and I think area disposal has done an exemplary job at helping us eliminate the problems that we have occurred through this process.
Alderman Keller.
Thank you, Mayor. So when's the date that our contract officially ends with area? Okay.
So if we did an option for the next year, there's a option for year one and an option for year two. They would start March 1st of 21.
So in your conversations with area, did they, I know this is preliminary because nothing's been signed, but did they tentatively agree that if there's an extension, that the language and all terms that they've agreed to would also be retained, and that we could add that additional language as far as the ownership and who pays? But was there, I guess my question is, was their intention to remain with us under the same terms? And if that's so, under what rate? Have they given a possible rate? Because I'm sure they would probably be having.
So contractually, the rate is $16.33 per month for regular residents, and those that fall under senior or disabled, $14.55. That's year one. If year two is exercised, it would be $16.74 per month, and seniors would be $14.91. And Mr. Bateman can back me up here, but they have no interest in changing the language of the contract as we've gone through a number of amendments to get to the point where we're at. It's really the city that has identified the issues that Mr. Bateman pointed out. We run into some of those same issues on the sewer side of the house, where it gets in the hands of the wrong people, and then next thing you know, we've got somebody that's upset. In the sewer's case, they're going to the clerk's office upset, and in area's case, then either their service gets disconnected, or just we've seen anything and everything to get to the point where we're at. And I would say, 1 minute, I would say as a follow-up to what Mr. Bateman had mentioned, in all fairness, we did try to put code in that council that was in place that we thought would address the problems. But like with everything that's new, I mean, we ran into issues that we just didn't anticipate. And I will say, Area was more than willing to accommodate when we asked them to come back to the table and address the problems. Alderman Hoynacke.
I think because of the time restraint that we're sort of under, I would be in favor of a 1-year extension at this time. But I would really like to go out for an RFP, towards the end of the 1-year extension. But sooner than later, I guess. But
Alderman Parrott.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the RFP is that you get competition, and I think we have someone listening in that would like to put in, and there's an advantage of that for that business somewhat, because he knows what the current provider, next contract would be per household or whatever, for individual or family dwelling. It could come in under it. So, I mean, I do like the idea, and that's going to save the citizens of Lincoln some money. I don't, not much, I imagine, but, and then it would also cause Area to perhaps rethink, that next increase, for that extension year, if, they want to continue to have the service or, to provide the service. So I do like the idea. I'm a little disappointed that, it ends in February and here we're in the middle of getting close to the end of January, and we don't really have the opportunity to put out an RFP.
We could put out an RFP. We have not lost that option. It doesn't have to be done. Their contract just ends by the end of March. So the contract.
the end of March.
March 1st of 21.
First, so we have basically
So
5 weeks.
February 29th would be the end of that. There's still time. Alderman Bateman.
So, in the meetings leading up to this last one, and as I just reiterated, it has become increasingly clear we have to fix our side of it first. I'm not objecting to an RFP. I'm in total agreement with extending the contract. And the reason I'm in agreement with extending the contract, I think we need to fix our end first. I plan on putting a proposal on the next agenda to try to fix our end of it. We are the worst city for receivables in their entire corporation. And it's because we're constantly chasing down the renter. And you'll never chase them down. So my proposal is going to be, I agree with Mr. Harneke. I'd like to give him at least a 1-year extension to give us time to fix our end of the problem, so that when we go out for an RFP, then all people that are bidding are on a level playing field, and we already know how we're going to handle our end of the mandate. So from the meeting we had the other day, we're only 11 households above the threshold that Area said we had to meet. We're 11 households. The rest of them are either abandoned, don't know who lives there, don't know who owns it, don't know who to send the bill. Obviously, we have the records of who owns the homes. So that was my conversation with them, and Mr. Welch was there. The only person that wasn't present was Royal Coulter. The vice president was at the meeting. The local workers were at the meeting. So I just feel that we have to fix our end first. Let them, hopefully we vote for the extension. Then we can go out, we get our end fixed, we can go out for an RFP. Then we know where we stand, and then that way the bidding companies know that they know exactly who they're going to send the bill to and who is responsible for that bill. Because that, believe it or not, billing has been our biggest issue. Not that, it was bad when it went to the clerk's office, but now it's, as I can attest with Mr. Keller. Every time we come up with a big pile of trash and Mr. Welch is got one, and it's like, now, well, who lives there now? Who moved in, who moved out, who piled what, where, so we have to, and I don't think it's too much to ask. If you own property in this town, you should be responsible for your property. Every human being generates trash. So if you rent that property out to somebody, then you're responsible to keep that property clean. And it to me, it's not too much to ask to tell you to tell your renter, hey, I'm raising your rent $25 a month. It's going to cover the trash service. Keep your property clean. So, Wes, and he's only got 2 employees. We can't just keep driving around. And even if we did, we find piles of trash, and then we have no idea who lived there.
Alderman Barrett.
2 things I think that area's been wonderful to work with. I'm not saying they haven't been wonderful to work with. 2, the billing, the city gave that back to them, so the city's not responsible for billing. However, we can help area or any other business with receiving payments by putting in an ordinance that requires any leaser or any business owner to be responsible for the trash, and then, like you said, increase the rent or whatever for the tenant to make up for that, and to make sure that garbage is getting paid for.
Yeah, and I'll share my thoughts on this one, because some of us sitting in here were here the first time when it was a rather contentious topic, and it will be this time as well, I have no doubt. First and foremost, I think that this is a discussion, and if you have an opinion about this topic, these people that are sitting around this council chamber are your aldermen. Call them and share your thoughts on the matter, first of all. But second of all, area has worked with us every time we've asked them to come back to the table. And I want to take people down memory lane a little bit here for people who don't understand how we got here. We used to have a dumpster out on Kickapoo Street, okay? That was for recycling. We learned through the fact that we had to renew a contract with Joint Solid Waste Agency that cost the city of Lincoln $60,000 a year to do recycling. That's how we came to be in this agreement with area. The previous city administrator reached out to them, and we had the conversation. That's how this got in place. It was really to provide affordable rates for everybody in the community and provide a recycling option. And the initial agreement did both. It reduced everybody's rate, and, well, I wouldn't say everybody. There are people that have been upset that their rates weren't the same as they were before, but a large majority, it reduced the rate, and it also provided a free recycling option for those individuals. So now we don't have a unsightly dumpster up on Kickapoo Street, and we're now addressing that. Since that time, recycling has become a non-profitable business. It just there's no money to be made in recycling. So area and any company that provides that service, they do that at a cost to them, which is why rates become what they are. And this is all the information that we've just learned over the course of 3 years in working with them. Now, I can tell you one of the things that I think is valuable to anybody who has trash is that when people have a problem, I'll give you a couple examples. There was a dumpster here in town. I'm not going to say where. It was an apartment complex. Somebody threw a TV in the dumpster. As you guys know, TVs are not permitted. So the company would not pick up the trash. The owner didn't even live in the city of Lincoln. He lived in another state. Peggy's aware of this. I kind of worked this through her office. I had to physically go get in my car and dumpster dive in that dumpster to pull the TV out, to be able to get the people that lived in that apartment complex to get their service resumed. Those are the type of things, once I did that, then I picked up a phone and they came right that day and they picked it up. That isn't the first time. The flip side to that is, without trash service from any carrier, you now get yourself in a position where you're at the mercy of them. If you have a problem with trash and the city doesn't have a franchise agreement in place, then don't call the city, call your trash carrier. It's no different than water and Comcast and everything else, your relationships with them. You know, it's one thing when your internet gets turned off or your TV gets turned off, but when your neighbor, and I don't know why, but I've just dealt with a lot of these over this last year, when your neighbor piles up trash as high as a mountain and you can't get anybody to come pick it up, that becomes a problem for you. Because now you've got trash blowing in your yard, you're getting animals, as Sam's has come to hear about coyotes. You attract animals like that, well, you're now at the mercy of that carrier. With the agreement that we have in place and the relationship that we have been able to build, any one of you guys, it just happens to be that some of us call them more than others, can call area and they will resolve the problem with a phone call. And we're working with them on addressing the customer service concerns. It's got a lot better. They've made changes as we've asked them to. And so I would still personally like to hear constituent feedback on this one. So anybody is more than willing to call me about it. That's how I voted last time. That's how I will vote this time. But I do have to say that I would be in favor of a 1-year extension, and in doing so, give us time to work out this kink in our code with ownership and who should have the service, and then come back in the following year with the intention that we'll put an RFP out. And we can start that well in advance before even we get to the end of 21. So that would be my position on the matter.
So with that being said, so we're not here all night. Whenever our next meeting is, I lose track.
The first.
There'll be a item on the agenda to vote to extend the area disposal contract for 1 year. And I'll also try to get on the agenda some kind of proposal to state that the trash service has to stay in the property owner's name. And we'll go from there and see where it works. That way we're both working together and trying to fix an issue.
Can you work with the city attorney on that?
Yes.
Okay. So is the council, Alderman Keller?
Well, I was just going to say, is it possible by that time the area can also populate an agreement that we can have as a draft agreement for us to look at and have all the terms written out for us to look at and agree on?
The
It's on
agreement that's in
website.
there is already in place.
Okay, that's good.
They are actually not
Okay,
asking for anything.
Okay.
The agreement's up. They have pointed out to us that the language says a 1 year or a 2 year extension, and they haven't asked us to take anything out, put anything in. As Mr. Welch has said, they've worked diligently with us on fixing issues, and they still are. And so we can print it out and put it in the agenda packet, but they're not asking for any language changing other than what the agreement is already.
So the council is okay with putting this on the agenda for a 1 year extension at the next meeting? Okay, I see a lot of heads. Ms. Bateman?
So is area willing to accept the city code change if that's what you vote on? Because I am sure that's a lot of legwork for them to do, having all their billing changed into the homeowner.
That was discussed in the meeting that we had with them. Yes.
We would have to give, yes, we would have to give the property owners ample time to change whatever lease agreements they have. So I'm predicting 4 months. We can always amend it, but from whatever time we vote, in 4 months that code would go into place. In the meantime, Mr. Welch and I discussed how we could work with area to get a list of the property owners from ones that aren't renters, so they could be prepared on their end of it also.
So, did you have?
No, I'm done.
Okay, so on that particular topic, area, they'd be willing to enter into the one-year agreement, the extension on that. I don't speak for them, but based on, discussions that have been had, I don't think they really care whether we do this code change or not. It's in our best interest to do it, because if you look in the contract, when we started this, the number of single-family dwellings was 4,468. If we fall below 4,400, they reserve the right to negotiate a different monthly rate. And we're still above that number, but we're not as far above that number as we'd like to be, simply because we haven't been diligent in our code. And quite honestly, it solves a lot of headaches for every party involved when these situations come up, as you know all too well. So I think the code change is definitely needed. Okay, so we'll go ahead and place that on the agenda for February 1st. We'll bring that back to the council for a vote and or discussion. Okay? All right. Okay, moving on. A couple announcements that I've got. Well, first, I guess I'll give everybody else a chance. Do you guys have any announcements you'd like to make? Ms. Kavelman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention, I guess it was 2 weeks ago or whatever, the city council gave me the deadline of January 15th to get the CURE grant off for reimbursements, and we did get all that off. We depleted every bit of our $598,334, and then through only putting in a certain portion to make up that amount with the fire and police department payrolls, we have still gone in and asked for more money, in, which is the amount of $2,345,372.33. So other communities have done that. It's come back to them. I don't know if we'll get it or not, but we've asked for it. But we have been probably pretty much promised this $598,334. So I just want to let you know we got it finished. Had lots of people helping me as far as scanning documents. We had to go look up checks, vouchers. Peggy helped. Julie Landers from her office. I had some input from the county treasurer, Penny Thomas, and Amy Kuhlman over there at the sheriff's office helped me. Just a few little advice that we needed to go with, and I've also followed the other city administrators and what they had done in their cities, and this is what they did. They did put in their payroll for their fire and their police, so hopefully we'll get some of this back.
Alderman Parrott.
And I know Morgan Gleason was probably a big help too, right?
Got Morgan, yes. He was here with me real late at night here, Friday and Saturday night. Yes, Friday and Saturday afternoon.
Yep, so I anticipate that we'll get the $598,000 back. We had to certify with the state. We wanted that months ago. That document was signed. Anything above and beyond that for the personnel payroll, we said in that submission that we would like to receive that if they have additional funds. There were, oddly enough, in the document, I saw a large number of municipalities that did not certify. So I don't know if that means there's going to be additional funds available for those of us that did. Ms. Cavallari.
Yes, and I did want to mention with what's going to happen tomorrow with our president, we were told maybe with this other stimulus package that we would have some more funds available coming back from the federal government for this next year for COVID. So we'll see. We should maybe know in a couple days.
Alderman Hoinacke.
Will we know, when, if we get awarded this or not? If it.
Some communities have been, it's been a couple weeks. Some have been 3 days. I think it's whoever the reviewer is or what the backlog or whatever is involved. But I do know the deadline to get all of this in was January 31st of this year. So we're a little bit ahead of the game.
Yeah, and everybody on the council should have received an email today, and included in there was the submission receipts. to show that it was received, the time that it was received, and the amount of funds that were requested, among other documents. Ms. Campbell?
Yes, and this will be the last I say. I just wanted to thank Susie Pegram as well as Charity Hutchison for providing receipts and invoices and everything for what they helped with, as well as Chuck helped us. Chuck Conzo helped, as well as Peggy, and all the things she did helped, and also with proofreading. So we got the document out.
Thank you for that update. Okay, a couple things I got here. First and foremost, I'm sure everybody has been wondering if you've drove down Union Street in the last 6 months, what's going on? So, Alderman Bateman, I know Alderman Fleshman is well aware of this as well, but the pay waivers that were needed to be submitted to close out the previous contractor have been done. So now we're in the process of renewing that loan with the EPA, and that was the last step that we needed to get to. So once that happens, then the work will resume on Union Street. In talking with Ms. Kreitz, and I talked with Andrew as well, I think we can safely guesstimate that that should happen in the next week or two, that we get that closed out. So we should start seeing something here in March, February to March, I would guess. But I'm shooting for mid-February. That's kind of my hope. And we'll keep pushing on that to make sure that happens.
Did Christie happen to mention, I know we could start in February sometime or March, because I've had some constituents call and ask, because they live right there on Union Street and it's affected their parking. They don't have any parking because parking's on the street. And they've been dealing this with, for this for months, and I can see their frustration with this. They just wanted to know also an estimated time of completion.
Can't give you one right now.
Christie had no...
I think that they said the CSO project as a whole would be 18 months. Was that fair, Mr. Bateman? 18 months?
Yes, and it's, as I mentioned in a conversation with someone earlier, I hate that we had a drought this summer, but another drought would make it go a lot faster.
Yeah.
As long as they don't have to dig in the mud, that would make it go quicker. I apologize for the delay, but quite honestly, the delay was not on the city. It was absolutely 100% not on the city for this delay.
Yeah. So part of the request is once we start finding, when they can start and when they can finish, some of the request was, hey, can we just make it, can the city make it where we can at least they can park there?
Well,
I mean,
they can, but keep in mind, when this project gets going, it got stalled in the part where they were dealing with utilities under the road. If you've been down Union Street close to your house, you see the big pile of pipe down there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's even more pipe down there by the pump station. So they're going to be tearing the road up and laying new pipe in there. So those that are anxious to get back in their driveways, I sympathize with them. But based on everything that I know, once they start tearing up the road, we're going to have to talk about alternate solutions. And I'm sure that'll include Walt working with us and the contractor. So we'll talk with Christie and see if we can get an estimate on that one. I just want to let everybody know that we've closed out with the old contractor, that we're now getting the EPA loan redone, and we should start seeing some work down there. And that does include the pump station down there as well. So we've got a lot of parts that were already ordered before this pause, and so they should be able to get going without much of a delay.
Yeah, and I guess part of the disappointment, I think, is just how long this has taken. And to your point, it's not the city's fault necessarily, but we blame Stark. Is that who we're blaming, for who's at fault with this? Because, I tried to at least ask, I think, Christie some questions as far as, how long is it going to take before we can get the next contractor and before we can get started. Of course, she didn't have, she was encouraging, but she didn't have any exact dates, and
Well,
but it's been way too long to get this thing started, because we stopped this back in when? March. A whole year. almost coming up before we start up again. And this resident's been dealing with this for a year.
I
And
don't,
maybe you're saying another 2 years.
yeah, I don't disagree that it's a huge inconvenience, and Union Street is one of a heavily traveled roads we have in town. I don't disagree. That's in our ward. And so, yeah, we take the heat for that one. But I can say that we did everything that we could to get that process to move along at a faster pace. I believe we sat back in here and we're hoping to get going in October and November on that one. And unfortunately, getting inventory done, because they had to go in and inventory everything. There were parts that were ordered that were en route. We had to find a staging area to put some of this stuff that we didn't have. And then all of the paperwork that had to be closed out. I mean, I'd like to say that it was nice and seamless, but without Christie's help, we wouldn't have these waivers closed at this point, because she took it upon herself to work with EPA and those to get it done. So I agree with you. It's not, yeah, all I can do is apologize for the delay. But we tried to push it as hard as we could.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on Fifth Street? Or Union
Yes,
Street?
Mr. Mayor.
Let's not open that. Alderman Fleshman.
Why don't we get back with Andrew and Christie, because on Union Street there is a area there that still has some barricades on it for whatever reason. See if we can get that area cleaned up to help the residents there in their parking issues, and then moving forward, work with the contractor and see what kind of answers we can get for them and some timeframes for them. We'll get that done here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we did work with Walt to clean up that area and barricade. The barricades had stuck out a lot more, and we pulled them back. But you know, the gravel that's down there in that space that's been opened up and just packed with gravel, it's just been packed with gravel because there's work that's got to take place there, and it wouldn't make sense to incur the cost to lay, you know, pavement and put a huge patch in there like that and then dig it back out.
That's just temporary fill to keep someone from falling in the hole.
Yeah.
Is what that.
Yeah, I agree, but maybe we can at least get them barricades out of the way for a little bit so they can park on that temporary patch.
Yep, we'll see what we can do. Okay. Anything else on that one? Okay. All right, next item up is municipal aggregation. This council approved municipal aggregation some weeks ago. The document has been sent to all parties to proofread that. I believe Ms. Bateman was okay with it. She was the last one. So I've already got that uploaded to the website, and that is the RFP to go out for broker or consultant for aggregation. So the dates on that one, I pulled those up for this discussion. The release will be today. The proposals will be due Friday, January 29th. The opening will take place on Monday, February 1st at 9 o'clock with the clerk's office administering that. The council will then review those proposals from all bidders on the 16th at our regular city council meeting. The contract signing, if authorized, will be Friday, February 19th, and then the effective first read will be in March 2021. So just want to let everybody know aggregation is in flight, and we'll have a RFP in the next couple of weeks for that one. And then the last couple things that I have here. So everybody knows that, or they should, that we got good news yesterday that Region 3, which we're a part of in the state, is now in Phase 4. So for people that aren't sure, if you look at it kind of in a hierarchy, we were in Tier 3. Between Phase 4 and Tier 3 was Tier 2 and Tier 1. So we actually went down quite a bit, much more than I had expected. And so I'm going to work with Chief, and we'll get some information linked from the city website for those that want to know what Phase 4 entails. But for the most part, it entails video gaming is now open back up. Indoor dining for bars and restaurants is now open back up. So given the fact that the restrictions have been relaxed, Unless there's an objection by the council, I would like to reopen all city buildings on Monday, 25th. And I would also like to reopen the depot weight station. Tourism, they're going to reopen on Monday, the 25th also. So we want to make sure we do that in conjunction with each other to better serve those people who use that facility. Alderman Parrott.
Just a quick question. Do we know what our positivity case is, or has it gone down at all?
It has, but I was following the IDPH regional metrics page, and I don't know why, but and this is why I anticipated something was coming. On Friday of this past week, the format of that page changed. So you can go out there and look at the Logan County one. I didn't look at that one today, but I do know that the only concern that there was the number of surgical beds. I did also learn through the meetings that the chiefs and I sit in that the number of staffing for hospitals has been increased. And so that has played into the ability to open up. I also did get an email today from Mr. Don Cavey at the health department. He's the director down there. And he is or has sent a notification to all restaurants and bars about this information as well as some details. Ron, did you pull up the number?
The 7-day rolling average is 3.4%. Is that what you're?
Is that for Region 3?
That's Logan.
Or is that for Logan
That's
County?
Logan. This is our dashboard.
So Logan County is 3.4% for those who are
I
interested.
believe our region
Is a
morning on the news was like 5%.
Yeah, it's a little higher.
Yeah, when they took the site down, it was in the low fives when I saw it. And I want to say I don't want to say they took the site down. I'm just saying they rearranged and moved things around, and I have yet to find that dashboard that was there. So if we find that, we can link that as well. Yep. So great news for Lincoln and Logan County. We're moving in the right direction. The treasurer will be pleased to see that our revenue will start to go back up. But we still got a ways to go to recover from the fiscal loss that we've had. So we'll monitor that. Okay. Is there anything else that anybody has? Alderman Keller.
I was just going to follow up on that. Are we going to resume weekly meetings then again?
I would like to resume weekly meetings. I talked with Ms. Bateman and the city attorney. There's a resolution that the council will have to approve to return to weekly meetings. If we get it on the next agenda and it gets approved, keep me honest here, Peggy, but we're talking, was it the 19th on the Cal?
No, the
9th, I'm sorry.
The first, we will have our next meeting is February 1st,
Yep.
where the city attorney will have the resolution. You'll vote on it, and then we'll resume the next meeting on the 9th of February would be the CAL.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll bring that for your vote and consideration. Good question, thanks. Okay, anything else? Okay, Alderman Keller.
Mayor, I make a motion we go into executive session under 2C2 collective bargaining.
I'll say.
Alderman Keller made the motion, Alderman Parrott second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Fleshman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes. Okay, we'll be going into executive session at 8:56 p.m. There will be no city business following executive session.